Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our inspirational interview series. I'm Hannah Levin with Heartfelt Wellbeing, and we do these interviews every Tuesday with inspiring people in the world so that we get to learn lots of different pieces about healing and different modalities. Because, as you all know, I like to say, as purported by Satchitananda, that paths are many, truth is one. So we're all navigating towards an ultimate truth of wellness and potential and living our lives to the fullest. And there's many paths to get there. So I'm thrilled to have our guest today talking about embodiment. Before we get to her, I want to remind you all I'm going live using StreamYard. And if you are here and you can give permission live to us to see your name, that would be fabulous. And I invite you to type in questions into the chat so we can use those in our conversation so that you can participate and get your questions answered and feel supported in your journey as well. So our guest today is Richele Henry, and she is a master level transformational coach and certified soul flow embodiment facilitator. She spent her adult life deconditioning from the negative self-talk and body shaming she internalized as a young dancer, and has dedicated her work to guiding women on their journey toward embodied self-love. We know a lot about that here. Through her immersive one-on-one experiences and online group coaching programs, she has logged thousands of coaching hours facilitating deeply healing experiences for women as they break free from body shame, learning how to truly trust themselves and live in loving partnership with their body. So without further ado, please help me welcome Richele. Hello.
Hi, Hannah. It's so great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk with you today. Glad we could schedule a time. I know you're a busy mama and a career lady. So tell us a little bit more about who you are. Just give us a little introduction into
Sure.
who you
Well,
are.
thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction of me. I'm Richele Henry. It's great to be with you all today and to be with Hannah. So I am a mother of two boys. I have an autistic nonverbal son. So a big part of my life is being an advocate for him and making sure his needs are met. I have a big story around healing birth trauma with him, and that's actually part of the reason why I do embodiment work now, and how his birth was a huge turning point in my life. I was a health coach for about 8 years before he was born, and I led group experiences like sugar detoxes, and I had a program called Body Love that I led, and I guided hundreds of women through the sugar detox. But something that I found is that a lot of women still really struggled with loving themselves. Like it's not enough to just shift what we're eating, it's the intention behind it. But sometimes a lot of times what I notice is that we can be controlling our food or be really clean with our eating. But then we're not addressing what's happening underneath the surface, because a lot of times, at least for me, in my experience since I was a little girl, I was an emotional eater. And I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't know what that word was when I was young, but I ate my feelings. And I continued to do that into adulthood. And when I became a health coach, I noticed the pattern. And I noticed that all of these women who came to me struggled with sugar addiction and emotional eating. So I obviously like challenges, and I drew in clients that were just like me. So a big part of my coaching journey has been my own healing journey, and then helping other women who struggle with the same things that I struggle with. And as I said in my bio, I was a dancer. It was all about how it looked. I got messages like, tuck your butt under and suck your stomach in, and always like looking in the mirror, like, is this pleasing? And the pleasing, perfecting, performing, it's exhausting. And even when I stopped dancing, that was still a way of being that I very much internalized. And through coming back around to my birth journey with my son, through that traumatic experience and healing from that trauma, I actually have reclaimed dance in my life in this whole new way as a spiritual practice and as an embodiment practice, not for anyone else, but just for me to connect with my own body and to deeply listen. And so I feel so grateful, so grateful to be able to do this work and share it. And I come by it honestly. Like it's a daily practice for me of listening to my body, loving myself. And I just want to be here in the world, giving that gift and holding that space for other women.
I love that so much.
Thank you.
I want to see, so for some folks here, embodiment might be a new word for them. So I'm wondering if you could just define that for us. What is embodiment?
So I don't have the Merriam-Webster's definition of embodiment ready to go.
What is it to you?
It means dropping down out of the head and residing in your whole being. My experience of our world is that we're so living from the neck up, all of us, and we value. The mind is a beautiful thing, right? The ego actually is really useful. We don't want to eradicate that part of us. We actually need it to help us remember how to tie our shoes and speak the language we speak and remember what happened 10 years ago. That's useful to us. But making decisions from the mind solely doesn't serve really any of us. We're so disconnected from our body. So embodiment to me means dropping down out of the head and really deeply listening to the body. The body is always speaking to us. And when we override the body's messages and when we're not deeply listening, it gets our attention in these really big ways, like getting sick or, being exhausted and run down and having to cancel everything and sleep all day. And, it can really be such a gift when we start to deeply listen and decondition from all of the messages that we've gotten from society, from our family of origin about how we should be. And then we just live from this place of deeply connecting to our knowing, which resides in our body. It's not up here. So that's my very long-winded definition of embodiment.
I love it. No, it's so wonderful. And it's something that I talk about a lot in the programs that I run in terms of listening with the ear of your heart, like kind of bringing that listening down to be like, I care so deeply. What is it that I need to know? And yes, that our bodies are talking to us all the time, but are we actually listening? And most of us aren't until we get diagnosed with something, until there's a label put on us, right? And like, you have an autoimmune disease, or you are, hypertensive, or you have high blood pressure, or whatever it is. And then it's this process of coming back. It's so beautiful. I've been having, we're finishing out a season in the Vitality Circle right now, and we've been having these wrap up conversations of the season. And last night we were chatting, and one of the conversations was about, well, I came into this program to, lose weight and sleep better. But what I'm realizing is, like, I have a lot of inner work to do to actually manifest those things. Otherwise, I stay on the mental roller coaster of the, like, yo-yo diets and the, everything's imposed from the outside in, and how it's really powerful to be given space and permission to be like, let's back up or go upstream from this pattern tendency. I love you mentioned, noticing your own patterns around emotional eating. And so many of us have that. Will you talk a little bit about, everybody has trauma in their lives in some way. Will you talk a little bit about that?
That's the end, right?
We're in this life
Look no further than, right? Yeah, coming down the birth canal or being taken, right? That is an initial trauma that, and some of us have a deeper experience with that than others. But I'm sorry, finish your question. Speak a little bit about trauma and
about trauma, and then how it gets transformed into our relationships with our bodies.
Whew.
We could talk for days on that, I know.
So
Whatever comes up.
I'm going to offer a tool here. This is something I teach all of my clients and all of my containers, just a hand on the heart and deep breath in. So I notice that even that question brings up a lot of emotion for me and brings up sensation. So just if you feel to join me, hand on the heart, and if you feel to let your eyelids be soft and take a couple of deep breaths. So rather than overriding what's happened, what I noticed coming up for me and pretending like there's nothing there and like putting a happy face on, I'm just noticing what's happening in my body and acknowledging it. So you can do that quietly or say out loud, I hear you, I see you, I won't leave you, you're valid, thank you. Whatever your version of that is. So when I notice an activation in myself, this is my tool. It's free. It takes an instant, right? I don't have to I can even be in a conversation. Sometimes I'm on a coaching call and I just put my hand on my heart. It's not offensive to anyone. I don't have to shake it out. I do this kind of practice alone or when I'm holding a container or when I need to take a break and get something out of my body. But this is useful in any moment. Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring this question up. This isn't something that I share very often, but what happened in my experience when I had a birth trauma with my son, he actually was born at home and unable to breathe. We didn't know that he had a series of midline birth defects that impacted his jaw and the shape of his face. So his nasal passages were completely swollen shut. And his jaw was really small with a normal shaped tongue. So he was on his back and just nothing could get in. And that experience of having my baby at home, him not breathing, and then being whisked off to Johns Hopkins NICU 10 minutes after I gave birth to him, right? That whole experience was a trauma. And on my journey of healing that, it took me a long time to realize I used to joke and say, oh yeah, I have PTSD from my birth because I didn't, in my mind, I'm not a trained therapist, right? I'm a coach and I have embodiment and somatic training now after the fact. But I didn't know that you could have PTSD from birth. I thought that was something that, was only for, victims of sexual abuse or people who had experienced, war, either, civilians who experienced war in their area or, people in the military. I didn't know that was a thing. So when I got pregnant with my second son, I realized because all of that came back, right? I focused so much of my energy and time on getting healing for my son and trying to understand him and what's going on with him and is he going to be okay and all the therapists and appointments. I mean, I actually had to completely close my business that I had spent 8 years building because I didn't sleep for 2 years. I was traumatized and all of my energy went towards him. I nursed him around the clock. So when I got pregnant a second time, I realized, wow, I am actually traumatized from that experience and I'm projecting that onto my second birth. And I don't want to do that. I want this baby to have every possible chance. I don't want to bring that trauma into my next birth. So that was an impetus for me to actually finally get help. And I'm trained in NLP, which is the foundation of transformational coaching. And I did a lot of NLP work, but I actually felt that I needed something extra. So I did EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I found a local therapist and I did that for about 6 months. And I went into my second birth, just a completely clear slate. And I can talk about my son's birth now without bursting into tears. I can't even tell you how many times we did an intake with a new therapist or a specialist, and they want to hear all of the details. They want you to go from the beginning. And I just every time I told the story, I re-traumatized myself,
Mm.
and I couldn't tell it without bursting in tears. I feel emotion coming up now, but it's not taking me out, you know?
Mhm.
So what I see is that when we experience a trauma, it very much lives in our body. And while I love therapy, there are certain modalities that really help us to process it in a healthy way so that it doesn't take us under every time we are triggered or have an activation, or
Mm.
right, like I would see someone choosing to have a home birth and all of this fear would come up in
Mm.
me, right? Like I didn't have control over that. It was very much alive in my body and in my cells, and it impacted me on a daily
Mm.
basis. So I'm so glad I did that work to process that trauma, because my second son had a similar entry into the world. We were in a hospital this time, but he had shoulder
Mm.
dystocia. He was stuck, and
Mm.
he was a big baby. And what I noticed was, even though he was stuck, and even though after he was born, there was like a team of doctors that came in, they were suctioning him and they were all around him. They got to put him on my chest for literally 1 second. They said, "Kiss your baby,"
Mm.
and then they took him away. And what
Mm.
I noticed was I remained calm. And I hope it's okay to share this. My husband did not process his trauma from the first birth.
Mm.
What I witnessed was him pacing back and forth in the room, and he was absolutely reliving the
Mm.
experience from our first son and
Mhm.
wringing his hands. And I could see it. And I felt, I was able to just hold him in so much compassion, you know, in that
Mm.
moment, because I knew what was happening inside of him, but it didn't trigger that for me.
Mm.
So it's like we know when the healing has happened, because we can witness ourselves and experience and see it differently, experience ourselves differently than we experienced ourselves when we were reacting to, or um, you know, when the trauma got reactivated in our bodies, and then watching ourselves react to that
Right.
differently. So
Yeah.
I hope that story answers that question. Like, how does it live in the body, and how do we work with it? There are a lot of different tools that you can use to work with it. I actually, this might be controversial, I don't think traditional talk therapy is the most useful thing for people who
Mm.
have real trauma, because every time you talk about it, it just, you relive it. It's so there's a distinction in NLP. It's called association dissociation. When I would share the story of my son's birth before I was healed from it, I would associate into it. I would go back into the experience.
Right.
I would feel the sensations. I would smell the smells. I would,
Mm.
right? Now I can be detached from it. I can share about it, but I don't go into I don't relive the trauma every time
Mm.
I share about it. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people who use traditional therapy to process trauma. We just we can't help it. We don't have any other frame other than
Mm.
diving into it and reliving it every time, which re-traumatizes us. So having some
Mhm.
kind of embodiment somatic practice that helps us move through, whether it's havening, whether it's EMDR, um, you know, whether it's using EFT or some, tapping, something like that, to
Mhm.
help tamp down the heightened emotions that go along with the feeling. There are a lot of tools out there that are very useful.
Yeah.
And again, it's like taking our healing down into the body versus going like, here, I'm going to try to heal
Mhm.
it from this place. I can't heal it from here. I have to heal it in here.
Yeah. Yeah. So none of us gets disowned. Like you talked
Exactly.
about like that being an issue, that we're disowning parts of ourselves, but we own and then integrate, right?
Yes.
So we allow that story to continue to transform, not
Hmm.
be just stuck in the past trauma.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing about your story, and so vulnerably and beautifully. And it is clear, that you are able to talk about it without it, sending you into your nervous system, into a, a elevated state. So that's super powerful and definitely a
Mm.
testimonial to what you're talking about. What talk a little bit more about settling the nervous system
Mhm.
through embodiment,
Mhm.
through
Yeah. So there's the hand on the heart tool, right, that we
Mhm.
all have access to in any moment. Um, I love this phrase. I don't actually know who said this first. Some people attribute it to Tony Robbins, but who knows? But in order to change the emotion, change the motion. Um,
Mm,
if I am if I am going into a spiral around, if I'm going into an anxious spiral, or if I'm going into a sadness spiral or a rage spiral, right? Like some emotion that can really be overpowering and take me out of presence. It's really useful to be able to have some other tools, um, some embodiment practices. Whether it's, I know, for example, I know people who run on a daily basis for their mental well-being. For me, it's a
mm,
walk, and for me, it's dancing. If I know that I have a tendency towards, right, I notice my patterns. If I have a tendency towards um, feeling resentful of my partner, or if I have a tendency towards um, rage, but when I work it back, I'm aware of using this tool, using my awareness of patterns. Oh, when I regularly don't ask for what I need, and
mm,
then and it's layer upon layer of me not asking for what I need explicitly, and then my need doesn't get met, my need doesn't get met, my need doesn't get met. There could be one little thing on the top of the pile that just, right? But if I am checked in with myself, I'm checked in with my own needs. I'm dropping down, I'm listening with the ear of my heart. See, I already learned something from you today. I'm
mm,
listening to what I need, and then that is coming through in a conversation, in an expression. I'm
mm,
explicitly asking for what I need, but I'm also over here doing my own work to, like, oh, let me notice the part of me, like, where does that rage live? And oh, it's like deep down in my root chakra, and what would feel really good right now, want to just be with that rage. And if it had a voice, if it was embodied, what would it do? It wants to stomp, it wants to if I
mm,
really get in touch with that, and I honor that, and I allow it to be, it's going to be less likely that it comes out onto someone else, right?
mhm,
Like, I can honor that part of me and let it, not disown it, right? Integrate it fully. But it this phrase, I don't know if this came from anywhere, but it came to me the other day in the shower, because that's where I get my best ideas. Or auric hygiene, like, in if I am
mm,
being, if I want my aura to be really clean, I need to go inside and notice for anything that is like building up.
mm,
I don't want that to come out. I don't want that to spill out or spray out or get unloaded onto someone else, right? Especially my two young children or my husband, who I love dearly. But those are the people closest to me. And if I'm not being conscious of what's happening inside of me, it's likely to come out on them. And it's not
mm,
intentional. And it feels terrible afterwards, right? Like, I want to be expressed. Can I do that proactively? I want to honor the emotions that I'm having, but can I do that proactively? If I have a tendency towards anxiety, can I be with that part of myself, and can I notice the, like, quivering in my solar plexus? Can I
mm,
just hold that and let it know, like, you're so safe? And right. And a lot of it is like inner child work too, because a lot of what we're experiencing in the now is just rememberings from imprints that we had from age 7 or earlier. Right. So, like,
yeah.
holding the little one that is in me, like, I know this feels unsettling. I see you. You're so welcome here. I love
Mm,
you. Right. That, and I'm doing hands on my solar plexus. I do a lot of, like,
mm,
hands on my own body, and checking in. What's happening for you right now? Almost like talking to myself like I would to a child, to one of my
mhm,
children, you know?
mm,
Um, so I told you, I'll just go and go and go. I hope I
It's
answered the
wonderful.
question. Feel free
Yeah.
to reel me back in if I didn't quite answer it.
No, that was great. Yeah, and this piece of befriending our bodies, like the critical part of us that has a lot of judgment around just
Mm-hmm.
what we even look like physically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that creates its own trauma that we're perpetuating inside ourselves constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
I think as women, specifically in our culture, but men too, that we
Absolutely.
have a lot of comparing mind, right? Where we're like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
should look like this, or I should, you know, be different than I am. Kathleen just wrote in and she said, I'm learning that noticing is the first step in healing. Yeah.
Absolutely, Kathleen. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So so being yeah, I this is a whole another huge topic, but living in loving partnership with our
Mm-hmm.
bodies. Do you have any, so you gave us the hands on the heart practice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have other practices that you could share with us about even just beginning that conversation of living and loving partnership?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could talk all day about this.
Yes,
So
I'm sure.
feel free to give me the hook when it's time to go.
I just
Yeah.
have a few
So
minutes, but yeah.
thanks for framing that for me. Yeah. So it's hand of the. So I'm stopping the action, right? Like in the moment, I'm just pausing. I'm checking in. I'm connecting with my breath. I'm doing the noticing, like Catherine said. Like, okay, I'm noticing that my mind is telling me that I should be going to the gym, or that I should be eating this, not that, or right. It's like I acknowledge what the mind is saying, and then I can ask my body, okay, well, what are you needing right now? I think that is like the most helpful question. And for so many of the women that I worked with, what I invited them to was an experiment. Like, let's do an experiment. And you probably do something like this in your Ayurveda work, but let's do a cleanse where we kind of have a loving boundary with, I don't say like, you can never eat this again, but let's have a loving boundary with these certain things that can trigger inflammation in the body, can trigger cravings, like sugar, dairy, gluten, alcohol, caffeine, those things. Those are like comfort foods and substances for a lot of us. So when we set a loving boundary with that, it can bring up all of our unprocessed emotion and all of these feelings about ourselves, right? But when we're not doing something like that, we have to really decondition from that diet mentality. I'm on a diet, I'm off a diet, I'm right, like, oh, I have burned this many calories. I just personally, I don't own a scale at all. I get weighed when I go to the doctor just because they want that. It was actually, really interesting when I was pregnant to notice. I had to really hold myself in that because there was so much judgment. I come from the matriarch of our family would say, I'm 90 years old and I weigh 90 pounds and I'm so fat. And that was my grandma. And all of the women in our family have this narrative about our body. From her perspective, she was born in 1922, right? Like, her perspective was, if you like, thin is the ultimate measure of worthiness. And unless you were thin, you couldn't have a good life. You couldn't land a husband. Like, this is such outdated thinking. This is back there, right? So for me, it's deconditioning from all of that. And when I notice those types of judgments coming up, I know where it comes from. It comes from society too, right? Like the images that we see every day of women, perfectly airbrushed, completely symmetrical, right? That's not realistic. So to pit ourselves against this unrealistic ideal sets us up for, it sets us up for body shame. And so coming back to the question, so hand on the heart, I'm noticing the sensation in my body. I'm noticing these emotions. I'm noticing these thoughts that I'm having, and then what do you actually need right now? You know, your mind might be saying you need to exercise because you ate that cheeseburger earlier, but like what you really need is to rest. And if you if you override that need, right? If you don't give yourself what you need, like we talked about in the very beginning, that's going to build up time after time after time. I didn't meet my own need. And then now I have a health expression that I have to deal with because I didn't listen. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not to shame ourselves for not listening. It's an invitation, right? Like the body is always giving us this information. It's so wise. It's trying to communicate with us all the time. And that pause and that, okay, what do you actually need? Like, let go of what this person said about what you should eat. Let go of what this commercial said your body should be like. Let go of all of that and just be with yourself, right? That is the access point from, it seems so simplistic, but that's the doorway.
Yeah.
And then once you hear what some people are like, I don't know what I need, because they're so up here. It's like we have to cultivate that listening by noticing first.
Right. Yeah.
Then when we are aware, oh, my body is really, I'm feeling so exhausted. Okay, I must need to rest. And then doing what you can, even in small ways, to give yourself that, even if that is just, I can't rest right now because I'm taking care of 3 kids with snotty noses and, you know, this one has to get right. Can I just put my hand on my heart and take a deep breath and let that be a symbol of rest for me, even if I can't lay down or go to sleep right now, right? Can I at least acknowledge that need and try to meet it in some way, in some small way?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're building trust with yourself.
Yes.
So important.
Absolutely.
It's like, I hear you, you're cared for. Yeah. We've done work in the Vitality Circle or explorations with Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, working with feelings and needs. And this, do you know about grok cards? Kathleen, who's on here, actually introduced me to the grok cards.
Oh, cool. No, I don't. I know about Marshall Rosenberg, but I don't know about grok. Oh, grok. I think I did a retreat one time and we had those cards and they had different emotions and needs. Okay, I didn't know that's what they were called, but I have
they're really great. Before. Yeah. Several members of the program have bought them so that we can look at, like, when we're like, I'm just uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and then just to look at being like, checking in, like, do I feel anxious? Do I feel scared? Do I feel, you know, all these different things? And then looking at the needs. And so sometimes just seeing those written out is like, here's your options. Like, what do you identify with?
I know.
Yeah. Kathleen,
in the recovery community. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Tell me what Kathleen said.
Oh, well, she said feelings and needs and grok cards, my heart. She's like, okay. And then she also said, it is complicated to be with yourself. And once you build some trust in yourself, change does happen. Yeah. So Kathleen's a mentor in my program. So she's in her second year of being in that program and has gained a lot of self-trust. And it's been beautiful to watch. Yay. What were you going to say in the recovery community?
In the recovery community, they have this acronym. I've coached a lot of people in the recovery community, so I've learned a lot through them. But there is an acronym, HALT. It's, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? I think there might be one other one. Maybe there's 2 H's. I don't know. But, you know, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? That's possibly where my craving comes from. And that's really useful, especially when we're having, you know, a craving for a substance, or, you know, I'm feeling really high, I need to feel grounded, or I'm feeling really low, I want to, right? Substances like food can help us. But Kathleen, you're right. It is uncomfortable to sit with what we're experiencing when we're not used to doing that. We're not taught emotional intelligence in school, and most of us aren't taught that by our family of origin either. Right. So a lot of this work that I do is reparenting. It's like inner child work. It's really deeply listening to the inner child within us, and then telling that child or giving that child what they need to hear or what they need
Yeah.
from us.
Tell
It's
us.
like I'm the parent of the little one that lives inside of me didn't get.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so powerful. That's been a big part of my healing journey too. Tell us how people can find you and the ways in which they can work with you.
Sure. So I am on Facebook, Richele Henry. I'm also on Instagram, Richele Henry. You can message me anytime. And I do have a website. It's called thebodyloverevolution.com. And it's currently a work in progress. I have a few blog posts up there, just some writings and musings on these topics, if you feel to take a peek at that. I will have a group program coming up later on this fall called Crave, and it's about dismantling our and deconditioning from societal and familial patterns around food and body image and basically all the things that we talked about today, you know, learning how to deeply listen to our bodies, trust ourselves, and live in loving partnership with the body. So that's coming down the pike. For now, I'm working with one-on-one clients doing the reparenting work, the inner child work, embodiment work. I tend to, I really do work with anyone. I tend to attract women, but I've had some male clients as well, and I'm just open. I'm open to anyone who feels ready to do the deep work. That's what I love to do. I love to hold people in their healing, and it's an honor to be able to do so. So I offer a complimentary consultation for anyone who wants to have a conversation with me, see if we're maybe, you know, a good fit for working together, if our energies feel good together, and then we would explore what it would be like to work together further. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's such a gift to get to spend some time with you and have you share more about embodiment with us today. So thank you so much. Really
thank you,
grateful.
Hannah. Such an honor. I'm so
You're
honored that you
welcome.
invited me, and I hope your community finds this valuable. And I'm there in the group. So if you have questions or you want to share anything from this exploration today, I'm all ears. I would love to hear any
Yeah,
feedback.
wonderful. Yeah. Kathleen says, so powerful, Richele. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Oh,
Thank you,
yay.
Kathleen.
All right, you all. We'll see you next week for another inspirational interview. Take care.